Okay, so I randomly decided to just go ahead and try and create this style that someone was asking for on Discord. It's all about building the geometry and creating the curves that you need from the edges of the geometry and then converting those curves into guides. Here are the guides. Get rid of the hair. These are the quick and dirty guides. They could be developed further, but this gives the basic shape. And then these are the three geometries that I developed just to shape the hair that I wanted. Even when hair is pulled flat, it has a thickness to it. So I started with the outer layer, and then I just duplicated the faces I wanted and extruded to the head using a live object. And that allows you to basically shrink wrap. But you can see the edges line up with the curves. You can use convert, select the edges. You can only select one loop at a time with this tool. I'm sure there are scripts out there that you can use to select all your edge loops and convert to curves. So you can see all the curves. They're definitely not perfect curves. I just let it go with the default settings to go directly from the edges to the curve shape, nothing special. The one thing you do want to pay attention to before you convert into guides, make sure that you have your curves going in the right direction. So this is the end. The little square always indicates the end, or the beginning, I guess, depending on which way you look at it. Beginning, I suppose. And then the end has nothing. And then you want to make sure that all your curves are going in the same direction. Alright, so anyways, you take all your curves, convert them to guides with the tool. Keep them if you want, don't delete. The other thing I should mention is I'm using a real scale head, like 23 centimeters from top to chin. That's important for XGen. So density, it's fine. I painted my density mask on the scalp. You can see here, nothing special, just to get a basic shape of the outline, and I made various densities just for effect. Okay, so let's go through the XGen settings. The modifiers more specifically. So the first number one modifier that you want, let's turn all of them off and we'll turn them on as we go. Number one, clumping. And this one I have not going all the way to 0. And I have this one here controlling the thickness. Basically, I didn't want it going directly to 0 because, as you can see, it makes some pretty ugly stuff at the end. So something like this gives you a nice fill. And the important thing here is that you use the guides. Click guides, it creates a density at each guide point. So that's important to get it to follow. Alright, so there's your starting point. From here it's just getting gravy details. So the other clump that I always use is a high detail clump. And this basically breaks up the surface of the hair, because hair is usually not perfect. This one is very high density. I put it to 100 here on my scale of an object, and you get a whole bunch of clumps. And I randomized which ones get value 0 to 1, and then made a scale curve. And that just gives a nice variety of breakup in the surface. Then the second clumping technically third, but this one is used to create a bunch of like waviness and messiness in the hair so that it's not so perfectly smooth. And it may not look so great now, but once the noise gets applied, it kind of disappears. But it's important because hair, depending on what kind of character you're making, maybe if you're making a character that was a prince and just had his hair combed, maybe it's perfect. But if you have like a warrior that is just pulling his hair up, maybe you want something that's less controlled and more messy. So that really breaks up the surface a lot. And you can always control it with the mask too, the intensity. Alright, so now let's get to the fun stuff, the noise. This is just a general noise. I didn't really change many settings except for frequency. I crank that up. I always find that adding noise, even if you want a smooth surface, you need noise so that it doesn't look artificial. Otherwise it just doesn't look like hair. So this one's kind of a fine noise. I kept it at 0 at the root and 0 at the tip, basically at the point where it goes up into the headband. And then the last noise is the stray noise. And again, this is going to depend on what kind of style you want. Maybe this would be a final design point for some if they want someone that looks a little more neat, but typically hair is not always 100% in control. So the first thing you want is you want your set stray percentage. In this case, I went with 1. As you can see, that applies some flyaways just to make it less perfect. And this can be increased as much as you want. Maybe you want some crazy flyaways. So crank it up, and this guy just got finished fighting a war, so his hair's a mess. Alright, and that's basically it. To do the ponytail on top, I would just put another disc in here inside the headband and make a new description with curves coming off of this, maybe falling down onto this part of the hair. So a whole separate description would be ideal. And then you'll have your warrior with a ponytail. Samurai, probably, most likely, huh? Alright, hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.